Tuesday. BobbyFi and Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be talking through a big slate. We've got the big immaculate inning this week, which I really like, and we've got the 222 on FanDuel, and then there's the $8 rally cap today. So it's a good multi-entering slate. I wanted to start off though by saying, shout out to Sheets. He nailed it last night. He said exactly what he was doing with his one big lineup on FanDuel, and of course he wins the freaking tournament. Great job, Sheets. Awesome stuff. But I do want to also remind you guys, check in with what Sheets says. He drops these little dimes sometimes, especially when it comes to FanDuel. And then all of a sudden, you look up and exactly what he said he was doing is what happened. So great job, Sheets. And any other thoughts you want to jump into before we go game by game?
No, I think I'm kind of ready to put up my screen. Hold on, just give me a second. Yeah, I didn't. Just so you guys know, I'm going to be out of town for the next 5 or 6 days, but I have delusions of actually trying to get some stuff up there. So just the way the time change works, I'm probably going to be able to. So we'll see. No promises, but we're going to see what happens.
Yep, absolutely. I felt like we had a lot of good points yesterday on our stuff, but we didn't. For me, I did not capitalize on it. But I was happy to see that you did, because the Cubs, I had a lot of the places, but I didn't have the right combination. So happy that you got there with the Cubs and Dodgers there. All right, we're going to start off with your Yankees, Kansas City and New York. You have Stroman and Lugo, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this game because I can't figure out what to do.
Well, I'll tell you this: overall, the slate is very spread out. You know, I usually can see 2 or 3 stacks that stand out over everybody else.
Yeah,
and it's not going to be like that today. You know, just so you guys know, I am going to play a couple of lineups. I'm going to be on a plane. I won't be able to obviously late swap or anything like that, but I am going to put some stuff in. I actually got to put in my whole weeks of stuff before I leave, because where I am, I can't enter new stuff. Yeah. So I already put in dummy lineups for the NFL on Sunday. You know, well, I mean, just because you can't make new ones, but you can change what you put in. You know, so I put in all that stuff already, whatever I could, and I'm playing a couple lineups, but not much in the on DraftKings. I'm not really getting to either pitcher here. I have 2 pitchers that kind of stand out for the amount of lineups I'm playing, and we're going to get to them later. And then after that, it's a whole bunch of crap. And I think Stroman and Lugo, I don't really have either of them projected all that well. But I think they're both good enough. I mean, I don't need to be stacking against either of these guys. So I'll probably be off of this game in the few lineups I play.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of ways. This feels like look, I don't think on this slate I'm going to make it a 4-pronger because I probably don't play either pitcher realistically. But I think you could make a case for, I mean, like you said, there aren't these giant standout stacks, and I've got some thoughts on the standout stacks when we get there. But look, if you wanted to talk into a Yankee stack on this slate, I'd be totally happy to do it. I don't love stacking against Stroman in general, but he's given us a lot of reasons to with the way he's pitched a lot of this season. He's been lit up a number of times. So I could see a lot of cases being made here, and I yet don't have a strong take. So I guess at the Yankees at low ownership, maybe as a mini stack, or maybe taking a shot against Stroman and just hoping that he's bad. All of it makes sense. I just think there's a big slate and there's other things I'm prioritizing. I do think that the total is, I love the over in this game, but I don't really know what to do with it DFS wise. So I'm probably right now outside looking in, but Yankees, if anything, going to try to figure that one out later. All right, moving over to the Mets in Toronto.
Bassett gets another shot to pitch, I guess. Same story, man. I mean, I have Bassett as well. You know, it depends how many lineups you play. I have Bassett my group of, third tier as far as pitchers go. So if you play a bunch of lineups, I guess you could do that. But the Mets are tough, and Peterson has good games sometimes, but Toronto's tough too. So probably going to be off of both of those pitchers. Let me look at the hitting here. Nah, I mean, listen, once again, I promise I'll have other stuff.
Yeah,
I don't really have much from this game.
But I first of all, I always love when there's hardly any takes, because everybody has a million takes on everything, and I'll tend to throw in just different thoughts. I happen to think that David Peterson is a very interesting tournament play. We know the upside for him. He sometimes is, and he's been in terrific form for the most part. including in some very, very tough matchups. I mean, his last 4 matchups were Baltimore, San Diego, Arizona, and Boston. Those are 4 of the top 7 in baseball in terms of hitting. And even in those, he's been solid. And you tell me, here against Toronto, like that he's going to be 0% owned basically, or a couple percent owned. I think I'm willing to take a gamble on it. I also think I'd be willing to take a shot with Bassett, which is one thing that's really interesting is when Bassett was expected to pitch yesterday, they had him at 5 less pitches than they do today. I'm not really sure what went into it, whether there was like talk about there being an opener and him being long. I don't know what did it, but I think he's actually got a higher, he'll probably throw more pitches than he's being projected for. And I wouldn't shy away from these teams. It's just probably the wrong slate for me. If there was a way to go, I think Toronto might be the one. Even though I like Peterson, just because he's volatile and he can occasionally get hit around, I would consider Toronto. But no priorities here. I do think that getting some low ownership on these guys though might make some sense later in the day. And depending on how Toronto's lineup shakes out, you might get some really cheap guys in certain spots in the order. So I'm open to it. But I'm looking at Toronto's lineup here. Yeah, it sounds good in name. Like you've got Guerrero and Springer as lefty killers and everything. Everybody else in the lineup is not exactly like a lefty crusher. So that's why I'm sort of interested in Peterson as a pivot. Anyway, I think it's an interesting game. I would have liked it on yesterday's slate because we could have gotten creative. This is not maybe the right slate to do that because it's such a big slate. At the same time, nothing really stands astronomically out. All right, moving over to Boston, Baltimore and Boston with Crawford and Suarez here.
Yeah, I mean, I got Boston Baltimore as a. Wait, is it Baltimore that I have? I thought I had Baltimore as something. No, it's actually. Was it Boston? I had Boston actually as a decent option. Baltimore kind of like 5th or 6th is just raw points go, but they're all expensive. I think Boston's pretty decent here. So I would say Boston. They're not like my top again, but I mean they're close. I think Boston's actually a pretty good option now that I'm looking at this.
Yeah. So I just want to point out something about Boston. If you play them, when you ever think about like Abreu, just remember that he almost always is going to be gone if a lefty comes in. And because they have 4 lefties in 5 spots and he's in the middle of that, he's going to probably be gone. So he's always the one that I try to leave off, even though he's a fine play in general. But they'll probably bring in a lefty reliever if it's that part of the order. And that probably means we go to Refschneider, Refschneider, by the way, had like, what did he have? 2 home runs. He had
45 fantasy points.
I mean, just an absurd game, like just nuts. But yeah, on its face, I do like Boston. And I honestly wouldn't shy away from Baltimore. But again, another game where not a huge strong take for me. That's why I said a good multi-entry slate. Not a lot of things look obvious, and the ones that are obvious are probably going to be a little higher owned than they're projected. But I think Boston is a team I could talk myself into for sure. And Baltimore is honestly as well. For what it's worth, it's only 70 degrees. It's a nice cooler day across the country. Yeah, it's Boston though, so it's at least you have the park to help you out too. Kind of an important game for the Orioles as well. All right, Cleveland and you have Cleveland next. Cleveland and the White Sox.
So once again, I have Cleveland as the top stack today. Against Cannon. I mean, Cannon's usually a guy that you can get after. And once again, same story as I talked about yesterday. I mean, Cleveland just doesn't really put up those types of fantasy numbers usually. So they're projecting to be kind of the top, but it's same story. If they end up being the most popular, which it looks like they are, listen. If I'm going to play like just a couple of lineups, I'm going to play some chalky pitchers. I'll go with the chalky pitchers and just go with something else as far as my stacks go. But they certainly project to be pretty decent.
Yeah, I've got my normal rule written in because they're the team that I'm a little bit afraid of the ownership getting too high. But even then, there's ways to get different. You've got Noel down there who's going to have low ownership. Manzardo should be low on because he's first base eligible only, and people would probably rather stack Naylor in this. You know what I mean? So he's 2,800. So that's another way you can get different with the stack. It's going to be hard for me to just say no to stacks against the White Sox, but I will point out there's 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right field. You could argue that the White Sox have the second, maybe third most affected stadium by wind. So just throwing that out there for a reason to fade Cleveland. And I don't usually recommend Ben Lively, but I think we'd be kind of foolish not to just always consider every pitcher against.
Listen, the kid last night was like live for a perfect game.
I know, and he had 11 strikeouts, and he had literally that was his first good game in the majors. So we got to always consider Lively. We always got to consider the plays against the White Sox, no matter how gross it is. And he's going to have some ownership as well. So at the same time, if you're going to get a little funky on this slate or you need value, I think that you could go right back to the White Sox. I prefer the righties over the lefties, as I mentioned, with the wind blowing out. Just hope for the home run ball. The favorite plays here might be Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert, but then you play it with a cheap Corey Lee, for example, who's we know has a little bit of pop. I can see myself talking myself into some White Sox a little bit later. Just gonna wait and see what else we can find. But that is something that I don't mind doing even on a big slate, as long as it's not like a 5-man White Sox deck. I don't want no business with that. Who am I? I want no business. LA and in Minnesota.
Yeah, so this is a good bit of chalk, I think. Well, it's a bit of chalk. I mean, I have Pablo Lopez as the top pitching option on the slate, and it'll probably be in my big buy-in, and I'll continue my run of never having had him had a good game when I have my money on him. But that's just the way it's going to be. And then I have Minnesota against Canning as being a good stack, and I have that being pretty high owned as well. So I don't know. I mean, are they going to be higher owned than Cleveland? I think it's close. So maybe I can't even get away with this either. But we'll see. But this certainly looks like something pretty decent.
All right, I have a take, and they're gonna contradict each other a little bit. I like Lopez, but look, I totally I don't mind fading him, but he does look like he'll be a core play for me. I really think Canning is interesting here.
He's ready. He's ready for one.
He's been unbelievable. He just dominated the Dodgers. He's 5K. His strike, to give you an idea, he's got a higher strikeout expected rate here than Lively does.
Right.
And he's 2,300 cheaper. He's been much better since the All-Star break. You can talk me into this one. So at zero ownership,
we're all. It's good enough to get off to Minnesota.
But actually, I'm going to take it as I'm going to stack Minnesota in my non-live, because I know there's the Canning blow up is always there, but he has been significantly better the second half. What worries me with him is always the strikeouts, but he's even got a reasonable strikeout expected rate here today. So I also want to remind everybody, if he does get knocked around, just beware that Minnesota is going to be platooning guys. It's just always what they do. Beware of the lefties in the lineup, because they could easily turn into righties by the end of the day. I'm on both sides, so I have three. It's a 3-pronger for me: Lopez, Canning, and the Twins. But I'm going to play some Canning tonight, and even in some of my higher buy-ins, whatever they may be, a little later on. And I also am going to have some Twins, so that's where I'm at. All right, moving on to Cincinnati and St. Louis.
Boy, I haven't done in a while. I haven't bit for the Cardinals value in a couple of weeks. It looks like they don't look that high owned this time, and look at how cheap all these clowns are. I mean, you have Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know, maybe he hasn't hit anything the whole season, but I got Goldschmidt and Arenado under 4K.
For good reason.
I guess so, right? I suppose so. And then you have, what else is we have? Where's Newt Bar? He's another guy that I like to play sometimes. So I don't know. I'm just trying to find something other than the chalk here. What's Newt Bar? He's 3,400. Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know.
I'm kind of with you on this. I was shocked to see the Vegas total only at 8 here. I really thought you'd have a better number. And look, you don't have to talk me into, like you're saying, St. Louis. I also think Cincinnati's totally in play here.
Why not?
Neither of these pitchers do I have any respect for. For what it's worth, Palante has been good since the All-Star break overall. But I'm totally good with this. It's 80 degrees. It's one of the hotter games on the slate. Crosswinds, so nothing really getting in the way. I think I'm good with considering a game stack here at very low ownership, and it makes plenty of sense to me. So this is my first get off the board stack that I'm actually going to make sure I've got it circled, and I don't have it just written down. It's actually circled. So I like the take of maybe taking a stab here. I'm so frustrated with St. Louis because they're so bad. offensively, but at the same time, I can't ignore the prices. And especially if they let Jordan Walker, that guy's going to end up hitting 40 home runs one of these days if he ever stops striking out. I'm into this, so I'm with you a little bit on that game in general. All right, then we get Oakland in Houston, right? Is that what they have next?
Yep. So this is the second pitcher in the main cash build, Lopez and Arrighetti, I think. And it's going to be owned as a result. I got a couple of things you could do if you didn't want to play these guys, but they certainly look like the top pairing. And because they're cheap, I mean, you could get Houston in. I mean, if you want to play them, so I don't mind that. They're going to be highly owned. I imagine so, but guess not. Look, where's the Houston ownership? Where'd that go?
It's weird, right?
Yeah, so I like that. I like Houston. If you play Lopez Arrighetti, you can play with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely like Houston.
Totally with you. I think that Houston is look. This is just a warning to anyone who follows me and does anything that I do, like with these things, or watches my ownership and stuff. For whatever reason, every time I've been into Houston this year as a low-owned stack, it has not worked one time. It has been the nightmare for me. And I'm going to give it another shot again today because I like this spot, and I think that they're being a little bit overlooked here against Bido in the A's bullpen. So the A's bullpen is actually very solid at the back end, but if you get to Bido early, maybe you can get to the week-long relievers. So also they're cheap enough, like especially if assuming that Singleton's in the lineup today and Gamble, you've got some and McCormick. Those guys are all 2,700 or less. I think I'm interested in the Houston idea a little bit. So now we're finding some stuff that we like, and it's actually off the board, so that feels good. All right, San Diego and Seattle. I'm sorry. Which do you have?
Yeah. So Arizona, Texas. I mean, I guess that both these guys are okay pivots, the Eovaldi and Gallen, but I mean their matchups are not great. I don't know. The whole game's probably a pass.
I actually like Gallen a lot.
You do?
I'm not as afraid of this Rangers lineup the way it's been. There's no Seager in there. Just not nearly what it was last year. They've been underproducing. You got Gallen, who's got, look, it's a low strikeout, it's for him, and he hasn't been quite the same. But he's also, we're getting him at 86. I mean, I say he hasn't been quite the same. He's put up 30 in 2 out of his last 3 games, and the only game he didn't was the Dodgers. So I think Gallen is actually a guy who I'm considering making a core play for me today. I hate to do it against the Rangers. Everybody knows I love them, but it has a lot to do with Seager. And I didn't get to any of the hitting in my first look at this, but I wouldn't hate the idea of getting to some Arizona. I just think Arizona is the most under-owned team consistently, and they're the best scoring team in baseball. So not the best fantasy team, but the best, highest scoring real-life team. So I like Gallen quite a bit, actually. All right, moving over. We have the other slate, 641, San Diego, Seattle.
Yeah, I don't have either. I don't have them projected, or I don't have them projected well. I'm not seeing Kirby showing up here as a good play. Why is that? Do I not even have him projected? He's got to show up as decent, right? Yeah, I don't even have him projected yet. So I imagine that he's going to be pretty decent, right? So I'm going to sight unseen. I'm going to say Kirby's playable at 8,800. Darvish, I mean, against a free swinging Seattle team, maybe they let him get off the hook with his wildness.
He's just coming back from an injury too, and he only had one start.
That's all right. I don't know. It's like 50 lineups. I'll get him. I don't think I need to. I don't think I want to play him with small lineups.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Kirby is just a whole different pitcher at home. It's a great park for him because he doesn't get touched there very much. It's pretty much a nightmare matchup in terms of, look, they don't strike out. They score, I think they're 4th in runs scored for the season.
Is that true?
Yeah, San Diego. And look, it's a park downgrade for everybody. And San Diego is the one place where it's not that big of a downgrade. I guess San Francisco as well. I'm still going to take some shots with Kirby. I don't feel so adamant about these other pitchers that I can't see Kirby going out there and having, throwing a gem. Seattle's in a very must-win-ish spot. I don't know why we can't play Seattle here. I got to think about this one a little bit, but Darvish looked terrible after coming back from basically being gone most of the season. And I know it's a solid-ish bullpen behind him. It's pretty solid. But I just feel like maybe he can get a little wild, and maybe I guess I was looking for low-owned things, but I think Seattle's another team I'm considering. Probably doesn't make the final thing, but that's where I wanted to mention it. All right, Milwaukee and San Francisco.
Yeah, this is a weird one because, I mean, I'm looking at this, and it seems like some game that's kind of like just gonna not be talked about too much or owned too much or whatever. I kind of like both these pitchers a little bit, just as something else to do. They're dirt cheap. They're lower owned. They're not the greatest plays in the world, but they're not bad either. I don't know. In trying to get off the chalk a little bit, I don't know. But I do like them a little bit, and I'm not getting to it.
Yeah, it's 59 degrees. I can't quite argue for the. I don't know. It's hard. I wouldn't hate the idea. Like you see the total and you wouldn't get to it. Maybe last night's slate would have been the one I would have gotten to San Francisco. Maybe last night is the one I would have gotten to Milwaukee. As it stands, I think I'm kind of probably more interested in Birdsong. I mean, dude, Birdsong, why is he 5,400? Like, I don't quite get. I know I'm not saying he's like some superstar, but the matchup is, man. I guess he's been bad enough to where that makes sense. Maybe I'm just biased because I still have stock on this kid. Yeah, I think both pitchers are in play, but probably end up on the outside looking in. Honestly, they're so cheap. I guess I kind of have to consider them if I'm going to talk about playing Griffin Canning. But yeah, it's hard when nobody's playing the pitchers or hardly anybody's playing the pitchers and nobody's really playing the hitters. Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, to me, you could argue all four prongs of it, and I probably end up doing nothing. But the highest level of interest is probably Savale, maybe Birdsong. I don't know. For me, it's probably not going to be what I end up doing. All right, let's talk about the Cubs in LA.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get canceled or anything, but between Imanaga and Yamamoto and Ohtani and Dodger Stadium being, I think, near Chinatown, I mean, like, the Asian community is flocking to this game. I think that the pitchers are good enough to keep me off of this game stack today, and the hitting is probably good enough to keep me off of the pitching.
Yeah, the word is that Yamamoto is like ready to go, and that they're. I mean, we haven't expected at 96 pitches tonight on the first time back. I don't think the Dodgers are going to do that kind of thing. I just don't think it. I've watched this team play enough times, unless he's got like a no hitter going or something. Or like I don't know, something. It's hard for me to imagine him getting that many pitches. Like, he's been gone for months. We have a huge investment in this guy. Do you really want to mess around with that? Like, I don't know. So I actually do have some. Look, I'll talk out of both sides of my mouth, because if I really think he's going to throw 95 pitches, I think Yamamoto is a really strong play. I honestly wouldn't cross Imanaga out in large field stuff either, just because it's kind of a weird slate. And he's got the upside for sure. We know he's talented. So I'm sort of stuck a little bit, but I also think, taking some bats from this game wouldn't be the worst. It is much cooler. It's dropped by it's 20. It's going to be 20 plus degrees cooler in LA today. Thank goodness for all of us, because it's been over 100 degrees everywhere in California, in Southern California, and it's been just kind of rough. Yeah, if you get to some Dodgers, I certainly don't think. I think there are worse things to do. Sheets won't be able to late swap tonight, but if you are late swapping, you can always swap off. Well, I guess there's not that much exciting to swap off onto, but there's not that much exciting on this whole slate in general. Look, I've got a bunch of guys I'm considering. Gallen, Arrighetti, and Lopez are the three most logical pitchers that I like. Canning, Peterson, Bassett, Lively, Yamamoto, Savale, Birdsong. Those are what I'm considering away from that. I do have interest in the, mini Cleveland stacks, not going to go 5 or more probably. Minnesota I like, but I also, again, I sort of am interested in Canning. The Cincinnati St. Louis game and the Houston game are the favorite things that I found from our little show this morning. That's what I liked the most. Anything else you want to round out or anything like that before we get out of here?
Really, I will say obviously that I ran an early sim, and of course getting all the Oakland, just because that's.
Oh, we got Matt telling us here. What's up, buddy? He says that Birdsong was moved to Thursday. This is what happens when you're on air. So no Birdsong today. It's going to be Roop. Now I don't know what Roop's. Let me just take a quick look and see where he would even be pitch count wise.
Yeah, that's still funny. They're still showing him as probable. Okay, interesting.
I guess I'll touch on that one a little bit later if that's the fact, because that would be cool. But Matt, good to see you, man. Always nice to see you. Nice to have everybody in here. Please click the like button and all that stuff. We have some cool stuff going on. I'm going to be doing a little NFL preview a little bit later today. Probably be doing solo unless I can get Rody to get off work. I don't think it's going to happen. But we'll do it. I'll do an NFL first look. We'll be live at 6 for the baseball. And yeah.
Don't forget without me tomorrow. Don't forget golf.
Golf is back, and I'm going to do it. I'll get Kenny to come do it with me.
Yeah, I mean, normally the way my schedule is going to be, I might be able to join you for stuff like that, but tomorrow's a ridiculous day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I'm flying in. I'm getting in at like freaking 6 a.m, like local time, and then we're going straight to play freaking golf at like 8 a.m. local time, which is just ridiculous. And then like that's 9 holes. Then we're going to another one like later in the. It's like it's just stupid. But
that's crazy. That actually sounds. The first part sounds like a schedule that I could see you actually doing. Like you're the one who wakes up earlier than everybody else anyway, ready to go.
I sleep somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
I know.
The flight takes off at 6:30 in the p.m. my time. I can't sleep then, and I want to watch the debate also when that later. So
yeah. To Don in the chat, I'll run some builds a little bit later on, just so we get a better when I get a better feel of even who's pitching. I mean, we already had guys being scratched and a lot of things going on, so I want to run it when it seems like it makes a little more sense. But we appreciate you guys very much. I'm gonna have to look into this Roop thing because if he's starting at 4K and he's gonna have anything over 75 pitches, I'm gonna have to consider that. Anyway, good luck to everybody. Sheets, hope you have a great trip, man. We'll miss you here, but we want to hear some good stories, and we want to hear somebody win a tournament while they're overseas. That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right. And again, great job last night to Sheets for taking down the monster. Good luck to everybody today, and I'll see